Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Guerilla Sports Off Court. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based consultants wants to help you lower your monthly payment and possibly get you into a better interest rate. Visit trustedamerican.com and see how much money they can save you. All right, let's start the show. Let's go.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Guerilla Sports Off Court solo episode tonight from home. Liv Moods and Brandon Cristal, they took the night off. Hey, you know what? They deserve a night off. They've been absolutely crushing it for Guerilla Sports. And so, you know what? I decided to hop on. And for anyone joining me today, thank you so much for joining and tuning in. The Nuggets just got a big overtime win down in New Orleans versus the Pelicans. 132-129 is your final. Oh, my God, Nuggets fans. Are you tired of... I mean, I love the wins. I love the adrenaline and everything like that. But... it's getting to the point where my heart can't take that much. I think I'm just going to I don't know. It's too much to overcome when it comes to like these type of games. They're just on the edge of my seat. There's so much I can handle. You know what I mean? But hey, you know what? The Nuggets get a huge win tonight behind Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Both were phenomenal tonight. And we also had a great Russell Westbrook game by him as well. And strangely enough, no Michael Porter Jr. to end the game in the fourth quarter and also in overtime. There was no Michael Porter. But you know what? That's all right. The Nuggets get a win, 132-129 in overtime. And boy, this game just kind of had it all. Typical start to the Nuggets game, right? Slow start, not looking good. It just lackadaisical defense. It just didn't seem. It seemed like the Portland game all over again, right? Like they get down early. They're just not into it. Nuggets just not into it. First quarter. Granted, Jamal Murray does hit a. I think it was Jokic who actually hit a buzzer, or it was probably Jamal Murray who hits that buzzer to kind of closes it a little bit in that first quarter. And you're going into the second quarter, and you're like, okay, it was Murray hits a tough spin, step back, mid range to end the first, and Nuggets are down 28-29, and you're like, okay, at least they're doing all right. But the second quarter is when the bench comes in and it just doesn't look right. The Pelicans go on little mini runs, too many turnovers by the Nuggets early, but they were unforced turnovers, which was like the most frustrating part about this. Was like Nuggets would kind of get a good offensive set, and it was just no one was ready for passes. They weren't focused in the first half, and it was very evident. I mean, the Malone. Also not in his game. Also, he also was leaving the bench in a little bit too long in stints, and the Pelicans were hitting their threes early. I think they had like 6 or 8, or I believe they had like 6 or 7 threes. I had a note here: 5 of 8 from 3 from the Pelicans early on, and in that second half or in that second quarter, the Nuggets fall 15, 16 points. And at that point, you kind of start to wonder, like, how are the Nuggets going to respond to this? It seems like they just weren't up to par. There was no defensive effort. Even on the offensive end, they were just kind of lackadaisical. Again, unforced turnovers. Just not the Nuggets, way of playing basketball. And so here goes the second half. I mean, at least the Nuggets kind of closed the gap there in the second half to kind of go down at least a little bit. I think the Pelicans lead was 67-59. So at least you kind of cut it a little bit after being down kind of big there in the first half. But hey, at least Jamal Murray was kind of getting himself going. He was having a solid night, and it seemed like we were going to have a Murray game, and sure enough, we did. Jokic wasn't, I think he only had like 9 points early on in that first half, so he wasn't even involved that much in the game, even though despite he was getting assists and he was already on triple-double watch. It just didn't seem like he was into the game whatsoever, and not necessarily like not into the game, but he just didn't seem like, he was giving that a bunch of effort like we were accustomed to seeing from him. But also, you got to give Russell Westbrook a lot of credit tonight. He finishes with a very nice stat line. he was also very good tonight. He finishes with 21 points and 5 rebounds, 5 assists, but he also had some tremendous key moments to just kind of keep the Nuggets in play. If it wasn't for Russell Westbrook just kind of coming into the bench and just allowing the Nuggets to kind of get a little bit more rhythm, I don't think the Nuggets win it tonight. It was just his hustle play tonight was really great to see, and he also finishes the game with the starters and in overtime. Again, no Michael Porter, so he was the one who filled in that spot, and it seemed to work out in the Nuggets' favor. But third quarter, it was a little bit more of the same. The Nuggets come out, they come out a little sloppy, but they start to get a little feisty on defense. And Jamal Murray gets an inbound pass. He gets a steal. So the Nuggets cut the lead. And this was basically the story of the night. The Nuggets would cut the lead, and then the Pelicans would respond with either a big three or they would go on a run of their own. And it was just like it basically reminded me of the Portland game where Nuggets would make a run, and then Portland would just immediately respond with either a three or they would go on a mini run. And it was just incredibly frustrating whenever you get that close. All of a sudden the Nuggets relax, and all of a sudden you're down 10 again. So it was just too many unforced turnovers by the Nuggets, and obviously the Pelicans capitalized on a lot of them. A bunch of points in the paint for the Pelicans. And in the middle of the third quarter, right, the Pelicans going like on a 17-4 run, and it seems like the Pelicans were gonna blow out the Nuggets. At that point, I was like, my goodness, there's no way the Nuggets can come back from this. There's just it was just too much. The vibe was completely off. I didn't like that at all, and I'm sure Nuggets fans were pretty concerned with that defensive effort that they were showing, and it wasn't up to par. It wasn't right. It just didn't feel right. But you know what? Here comes the Nuggets, and the Nuggets end up in the third quarter 81-93, so at least they were able to cut the lead once again. Jokic hits like a huge three at the buzzer to cut the lead, 81-93. And so you're like, okay, if you could just make it close in the fourth, you have a chance. And sure enough, the Nuggets get two quick buckets, one by Russell Westbrook and one by Peyton Watson. And here comes the Nuggets, right? But Jordan Hawkins, who was from the Pelicans, he was just torching the Nuggets pretty much all night. He immediately gets a three. Pelicans go up 3, and again, you cut it close. Here comes the Pelicans. So I mean, it was just literally like that all throughout the game. But the craziest thing about it, the Nuggets had no timeouts with like 10 minutes to go in the fourth. One of them was obviously the Nuggets were calling timeouts. There was like a challenge that was overturned. So no timeouts by the Nuggets whatsoever. And you kind of felt like the Nuggets were kind of dead in the water there with having no timeouts, not being able to substitute when you want to. So you had to rely on people creating fouls or just stoppage in play. So it was a little tricky there in the fourth, trying to get your team going and trying to get themselves going a little bit, and just trying to be careful with your rotations late in the fourth. But it was luckily in the middle, the run kind of started for the Nuggets when Daniel Theis started kind of fouling. He fouled Murray first, and then he fouled Strother, and it seemed like the kind of Nuggets started to get themselves going a little bit, because it seems like it got a little chippy after that. Well, not chippy, but just the intensity started to pick up for the Nuggets a little bit. It almost seems like the Nuggets were in collective unison saying, okay, well, at least we're close now. Let's see if we can actually make a run. And sure enough, they did. Payne Watson had an incredible block on DeJounte Murray, and then he had another block. He had like a two-handed block. They initially called it a rebound, but no, that was a crazy block. Murray immediately gets he hits a three, and then Julian Strother draws a flagrant one off of I can't remember, I think his last name's Green. And so that kind of woke up the Nuggets a little bit, got themselves going a little bit more. But all of a sudden, the Nuggets are down 4. Nugget, and then eventually Nuggets do tie it. They tie it with like 5 minutes to go. Jokic comes back in. He gets a quick, he gets a quick and one. But it was just great. It was just great to see the Nuggets just come all the way back. Continue to battle, continue to find ways to like just nitpick at that Pelicans defense, because they were starting to crack a little bit late in the fourth, and eventually the Nuggets do take a lead. They take a nice little lead, but again, not having timeouts, not having that benefit of like being able to call a challenge, that made it incredibly hard. So you had to really rely on the players on the floor to really, kind of figure out as they go. But I'm just looking at my game notes here. It was just the last 4 minutes were just a wild sequence. It was just like kind of back and forth, back and forth. CJ hits a three on the other end. They put sorry. Jokic misses like a bucket underneath the basket. That would have put up the Nuggets 3. Instead, CJ McCollum comes back with a couple minutes left, hits a three, huge three, and now the Pelicans are up 2, and it just creates a little bit of chaos. Obviously, you can't call timeout, you can't do anything like that, but you know what? Jamal Murray came to play tonight. He ties it. He ties it with 8 seconds to go, and the last possession in the fourth quarter was an absolute masterful defensive effort by Westbrook and Peyton Watson. They made it incredibly tough for CJ McCollum to hit the game winner, basically. And so here we go to overtime. And it was in overtime. It was basically the Jokic Murray show. And Jokic went at Missy. I mean, Missy was what's his name? Vele Missy? He's got a cool name. Let's be honest. He does have a really cool name. Yves Missy. I believe he's a rookie. He was giving Jokic quite a bit of trouble. Very athletic. Big. Kind of had a couple blocks on Jokic throughout the game. But in overtime, he was like, you know what? I'm just going to go down to the block, and I'm just going to make you pay. And sure enough, Jokic got some easy buckets. Of course, there was a couple blocks here and there. And there was even one Jokic. He kind of floated up. He was trying to get it up to the backboard and into the bucket. Misi blocks that. It was an incredible block. And initially it was called a goaltending, but obviously the refs review it. It was overturned. And it was still a very close game at that point in overtime. But Jamal, again, gets a huge steal and hits a 2 huge clutch free throws to kind of start to put it away, puts the Nuggets up 4 or 3, and it just kind of made it a little harder for the Pelicans to get it inbounded and get themselves going again. But no, Murray and Jokic, they're just phenomenal down the stretch. And it's great to see that for Murray. I mean, he played with such great confidence tonight, and he seems like he's had multiple 20-point games now. And can we finally say that Jamal Murray's back? I mean, I would like to see a more deeper stretch, right? Instead of 5 games, let's make it 10 for Jamal Murray. And hopefully he continues to play the way he did tonight, because he played with passion tonight. He was aware, he was focused, and he had huge buckets to really help the Nuggets, both to get them to overtime and to get a lead in overtime. So phenomenal game by Murray. Let's go down the box score for the Nuggets, who had several players in double figures. The only player who didn't score in double figures was Michael Porter Jr., and he was a -10 tonight. He was just not into the game whatsoever. He was felt like he was a little lost out there. Not necessarily a great game for Michael Porter, but hey, Aaron Gordon, even though he struggled tonight, he did find little pockets here and there where he was in the dunker spot at just at the right time. He had the beautiful Jokic to Aaron Gordon alley-oop. We got to see one of those tonight, and boy, was it a beauty. Aaron Gordon finishes with 17 points. He was great defensively as well. But Nikola Jokic, another triple-double. My goodness, 27 points, 10 assists, 13 rebounds. He was a +6. Jamal Murray, again, 27 points. He also finishes with 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Christian Brown was all right. He had a couple moments here and there, but he finishes with 10. The one player I was a little concerned tonight was Peyton Watson. He did actually kind of make up for, earlier in the game. He was kind of playing not necessarily out of position, but he was just kind of wild out there, not necessarily like doing the right play. He was, he was just playing a little too fast, like old school Peyton Watson, right? When he first came into the league, just kind of playing a little bit too loose, not necessarily, under control is the word I'm trying to look for. But hey, he had some huge blocks down the stretch, and he had some great defensive moments that ultimately helped the Nuggets win. And Russell Westbrook, 21 points. He was great. And Julian Strawther didn't necessarily score a whole ton in the second half, but he was also a reason why the Nuggets were able to just kind of stay, keep it close in that first half. Great effort all around tonight. But no, let's talk a little about the Pelicans, because they had two key starters out. No Brandon Ingram, no Zion Williams. But again, I never expect Zion Williams to play nowadays. It's just, when is he going to play? I think Brandon Ingram is probably the one where he always gives the Nuggets trouble. And coming into this game, you're like, okay, great. This should be an easy win down in the Big Easy. It was nothing like that whatsoever. It was not easy at all. These Nuggets struggled against this team. And it shouldn't be, right? Like, this Nuggets team shouldn't be struggling this bad, this mightily. They shouldn't be going down 15, 16 points in the second quarter and then having to make it up all throughout the game and eventually getting a lead late in the fourth. That's, even though it was a great win, that's not a great recipe for success. You're barely beating the bad teams and you're losing close games against really good teams. We've seen too much of it this year, and the topic of conversation has always been, can you get a fast start? Has not happened in a while. The only fast start that we've seen was against the Kings, and they almost lost that one because they just kind of let their foot off the gas. It's not something you want to see from this Nuggets team, but hey, a win is a win, and we'll take it. Especially just the way this one came, with just great defensive effort, great hustle. The last 4 minutes, you wish you can get a little bit more of that, earlier on, and allow yourself to kind of ease. Don't allow yourself to ease into the game. Control it from the start, especially against a team that's banged up. They're not really playing well all season. It just doesn't. It really, if you're a Nuggets fan, it would probably infuriate you to, be able to see this, to know that this team is great. They have great pieces. They have the best player in the world, and yet they're getting off to these slow starts. But let's see what's going on in the comments. This was going to be lost before it started. Oh boy, look at this one. Jokic defense has been trashed this season. It's kind of hard to I don't know about that. I don't know about trash, but it's definitely it hasn't been the most superb defense per se, right? And you can't expect Jokic to kind of be doing everything. Like I don't know. I don't know about that comment. It seems like it was a much better effort tonight, right? Like Jokic was able to kind of maintain the paint a little bit and kind of man it down there and not allow so many points. But also the Pelicans were having Jokic out in the perimeter, so there was a lot of times where the Nuggets couldn't rebound because Jokic was out in the perimeter. He was getting switched out. So, it's hard to blame just one person for defense. Defensive effort is a team effort, and that's been kind of the Nuggets' struggle this year. Is there hasn't been a collective unit of defensive energy and defensive intensity. It's hard to just blame it on one person. This was hard to watch. Shut up and take my money. It was a little bit hard to watch for the first 3 quarters, right? Up until like the middle of the fourth when the Nuggets finally took the lead and they finally started to get that momentum going. That's when it was kind of finally fun to watch. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It was hard to watch for the first 3 quarters because, again, no energy. There was no intensity whatsoever for the Nuggets. And they were just making silly turnovers where they shouldn't be, right? It wasn't like the Pelicans were playing incredible defense. The Nuggets were kind of getting whatever they wanted whenever the Nuggets were actually into it and they were actually playing with great focus. But, yeah, it was hard to watch for just a few ones. But, oh, hey, let's go, Ruben. Hey, thanks, buddy. But no, I mean, chat. Let me know what you're thinking of with this game. I know it feels like a win, but it also feels like a weird win, right? Like I don't know how to explain it. I just don't. It was a tough one. It almost felt like the Nuggets were just looking forward to the Suns, and they were just wanting to kind of get this game over with. And I kind of get it. I've said it before. This Nuggets team tends to play down to competition. And they certainly did it tonight, and they got way, way lucky tonight. 132-129 in overtime win. It's just crazy. I don't see why the Nuggets are having to play this style of basketball when they could just easily win. But you know what? We'll take the win tonight. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Pelicans because they did have quite a few players that would just absolutely torch the Nuggets. Jordan Hawkins, for whatever reason, he went way above his season average. I think he averages about 12 points a game. He finishes with 25, and he had 5 threes. He was 5 of 13. It seems like anytime he touched the ball, that bucket was going in, and he was just torching the Nuggets when he came off the bench. And Jordan Hawkins was actually a good reason why the Pelicans went up kind of big in that. But CJ McCollum, again, another Pelicans player that always seems to play well against the Nuggets. And I think some of the Nuggets fans just absolutely don't like CJ McCollum because obviously you remember one of those playoff series, CJ McCollum just goes off, and obviously Portland ends up winning that series, and it still haunts Nuggets players to this day. I know it for a fact it does. Every time I see CJ McCollum's face, I'm like, oh, it just reminds me of that playoff series. And Yves Missy, another center, a young center, he was very active tonight. He finishes with 21 points, and he was also very, very disruptive on the defensive end, and also getting rebounding. He was great rebounding on the offensive side. Had a lot of putbacks and had quite a bit of dunks tonight. Very explosive dunks. To be fair, he was actually very impressive. And, for only being 6'11", he was very, very disruptive and had a couple blocks on Jokic that were very impressive. So Pelicans have someone that can, kind of man down that power forward position. Herbert Jones wasn't that great, even though I think Herbert Jones went down with an ankle injury. I think he did. Was it Trey Murphy? I can't remember, but no, it was just not. Wasn't a great performance by the Nuggets, but it was more than enough by Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray to kind of seal the win down late and crunch time. The Nuggets finally move up to 15-11, improve their road record to 8-7. But you know what? We all know the Nuggets can be a lot better than this. We all know the Nuggets can absolutely just dominate, but it all starts with their defensive effort, because it seems like anytime the Nuggets are playing great defense, it fuels their offense, and we just haven't seen a lot of that, and we got to see it just in such a short little stint tonight, and ultimately that was basically the deciding factor tonight of the Nuggets getting that solid win against the Nuggets. But Nuggets taking on the Suns tomorrow, and we'll see how this overtime, having to play extra minutes, we'll see how that is going to affect for tomorrow's game. And, of course, we're going to have you covered for that. It is going to be a home game, and we are going to be doing post-game. We're going to be at the arena as well, so make sure to check that out, because it's going to be a huge game. It's going to be the Suns here at home, and then 2 days later for Christmas, they're playing the Suns again at Phoenix, and it almost makes you wonder, do the Nuggets have it after tonight? I think they will. It's going to be a long flight home. I mean, New Orleans is quite a bit of distance away from Denver. I'm sure they're going to be landing kind of late, but I think tomorrow is an 8:00 game, so at least you have a little bit of extra time to get yourself ready for the game. But no, it's just you got to take these wins. In a season where the Nuggets have been up and down, we're gonna have to take these wins one way or another. And it was great to see. You don't want it to be this way all the time, right? You don't want the Nuggets to be continuously having to be fighting for position, and just get home, right? Just get home, get ready. But speaking of home, we got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Trusted American Mortgage. Folks, how would you like to save, some money on your home loan and possibly lower your interest rate? Well, during the holidays, I'm sure it gets kind of hard to make your mortgage payment. Well, go to trustedamerican.com to see how much they can help you refinance your home loan and possibly make no payments until February. Are you kidding me? I would love to, I don't own a home, but I would love to not pay rent until February. That would be amazing. Trusted American's salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. And right now, they will cover the cost of your appraisal. That's a $650 value. That is insane. People, if you need to refinance your home, interest rates have kind of gone down a little bit now. So, hey, maybe this is a great time for you to refinance. Again, go to trustedamerican.com or scan the QR code. Here, let's make the QR code a little bit bigger. There we go. Scan the QR code or go to trustedamerican.com and see how much they can save you today. Yeah, again, Nuggets get a huge overtime win at the Pelicans. And again, even though Nikola Jokic had a great triple-double, it seems like his energy's been off a little bit. But you know what? Maybe the guy's just tired. Maybe he's just tired of like having to carry this team for the majority of the season. And I would be tired too if I had to continuously be the focal point of an offense that had been struggling as of late. But luckily tonight he had Jamal Murray backing him up. And it was great to see, again, Jamal Murray finally, he's finally seems to found his groove. He's found like his shooting stroke, and he seems confident out there. He seems a little bit more jovial, per se, if that's the right word. He just seems a little bit more sprung. He seems to, his level of focus is improved game over game, and it seems like he's finally getting into himself. And historically speaking, Jamal Murray is a slow starter, but hey, as long as he is ready for the playoffs, I am all for it. I don't care about the regular season. Just get to the playoffs healthy, get to the playoffs in a groove, and maybe we'll finally get another playoff Murray because that's who he is, and that's who we want, in the playoffs is playoff Murray. But let's talk a little bit about Michael Porter because, again, he did not end the game in the fourth quarter. I think he didn't play much of the fourth quarter, if whatsoever. I don't know exactly when he went out, but he only played 23 minutes. He was 2 of 8 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3-point land, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 8 points, -10. I maybe the whole trade rumors are in his head, and Malone just kind of is not wanting to show off a bad Porter in case he does get traded. I mean, now things are getting a little serious, right? Because now it's 2 games in a row that Michael Porter hasn't played well. Is this trade rumor starting to affect his play? I don't know, man. It's getting a little dicey now with the Michael Porter situation, and by the looks of it tonight, oh boy, I said before that I hope he doesn't get traded, and he seems to be doing well, but man. Let's see what Joshua Vickers has to say. This game was so rough, 22 turnovers. We cannot win in the long run with 22 turnovers. That's absolutely right, but I think I did see a crazy stat where the Nuggets have won a plethora of games whenever they have like 15 or more turnovers, which is crazy, right? Like you winning games whenever you're turning the ball over, it's unheard of. And but no, you're absolutely right. It's not sustainable. You can't be turning the ball over 22 times. You can't be allowing the team to have 44 something points in the paint, which is insane. You were so good last year of not allowing teams to get that many points in the paint. But let's see the stats here. Let's see the stats. I want to look for the point in the paint. So 64 points in the paint for the Pelicans. But 70 points in the paint for the Nuggets. But it seems like through 3 quarters, the Pelicans had about 44 or 45 points in the paint. It was just a lot of easy, drive-ins, and they were just allowing the Pelicans to just penetrate into the paint, and that would just kind of dictate. It was just giving the Pelicans a lot of ins and outs that it just made it a lot easy for them, and that's why the Pelicans were able to get up 15 at some point in the middle of that second half, and basically made it pretty hard up until the fourth quarter when the Nuggets finally started to kind of pick up the defensive energy. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That was rough. 22 turnovers, and like I said before, they were most of those were unforced turnovers where it was just bad handles or Jokic just would mishandle the ball, or it was just a lot of unforced turnovers, players not being ready for passes. It was too many of them, and you're absolutely right. It's unsustainable. You don't want that. You don't want that going forward, especially now, right? The season is gonna get really thick. There's gonna be a ton of games in January. There's gonna be like 17 games in 30 days. That is a really tight-knit schedule. You're going to have quite a few back-to-backs in January, and also you want to finish the year out strong, right? You do have quite a bit of games versus formidable opponents. And beginning with not necessarily a back-to-back, but a 2-game series versus the Suns, who are also playing really well. It's just a lot of good things are happening. A lot of good things happened well late in these games, but it's not sustainable if you're getting down that much that early. It's not a recipe for success for the Nuggets. But you know what? Despite everything, despite the Nuggets having an up and down season, the Nuggets are right there in the standings, currently 5th in the standings, right behind Dallas, Houston, and Memphis. And I mean, the West is just crazy. It's a crazy conference. I think the only one who's going to end up finishing first for sure is going to be Oklahoma City. But between 2 and I want to say the 7th seed, it is going to be a wild ride. And hopefully the Nuggets can at least sneak out some of these wins, but also win some of those games against specifically Western Conference opponents, and just kind of keep up in the standings. Man, do the Nuggets need some of these wins and kind of start getting a little bit more flow, because all year has just been inconsistency. And I don't know how I feel about these Nuggets, but hey, at least we won tonight, and the Nuggets can go home tomorrow's game, and hopefully we can at least start a win streak, or at least stay within the standings and stuff like that. Okay, we have one more comment, and then we are going to finish it off. We need to make a trade for ASAP, or I don't know what FS means. Yeah, I think the Nuggets need. They definitely need a trade, but I don't know about the whole Zach LaVine thing. I kind of broke it down on Guerilla Sports Daily the other day. I don't think Michael Porter for Zach LaVine actually moves the needle for the Nuggets. But look for somebody else because in the new CBA, the Nuggets do have to trade for dollar for dollar. So find another player that kind of gives you some rebounding and more scoring, or something equal of Michael Porter, but maybe just a little bit more of a splashier name that has like great handles and can penetrate a little bit better than Michael Porter. Because if you get rid of Michael Porter, you're giving up size, you're giving up shooting in exchange for Zach LaVine, who is much smaller, plays a shooting guard, and not necessarily is a great defender, or known to be a great defender. And also, but you're kind of getting the equal of like health concerns, right? Because obviously Michael Porter's back, and then Zach LaVine just has had up and down seasons, hasn't played 80 plus games, or hasn't played 80 games I don't think he's ever played 80 games in a season. I think the closest he's got was 77 games played back in like 2022. So we definitely need a trade, but I think we need a trade to bolster that bench, because we need more. Either we need more defense on that bench, or we need more scoring, because it seems like, as much as we love Peyton Watson, he's been one of those bench players that's been incredibly inconsistent, and we thought we were going to see a better jump from Peyton Watson. Just hasn't come to fruition. As a matter of fact, I think Julian Strawther is ahead of Peyton Watson. He's got better handles, better three, and they're about the same size. Now, not a dynamic shot blocker like Peyton Watson, but you're absolutely right. We need a trade, and it's going to be incredibly interesting to see what the Nuggets do down the stretch, or what they trade for. But man, things are shaping up now for the Nuggets, and the trade rumor for Michael Porter is going to get increasingly more and more hot as he continues to struggle, and hopefully he doesn't, because if you are to trade him, you want to make sure that other teams are seeing a efficient Michael Porter, a Michael Porter that looks great, shooting great, and is confident. Otherwise, he's going to be right back in a Nuggets uniform. But all right, folks, I have to go. Thanks so much for all you tuning in. My goodness, 72 people watching me. Oh my goodness. I know I'm not Leaf Moods. I know I'm not Brandon Cristal, but you know what? Thank you so much for everybody for watching and tuning in tonight. You guys have been amazing. Thanks so much for joining us on this off-court episode following a Nuggets win, overtime win, 129. Sorry, I spaced out. 132-129 overtime win for the Nuggets. My name is Ruben Villalobos. Thanks so much for joining everybody. And thank you so much make sure to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, you name it. We're kind of everywhere. And make sure to watch Off Court tomorrow, as we are going to be doing post game for the Nuggets following the Suns game. Well, anyways, that's going to do it from my home studio. And again, my name is Ruben Villalobos. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. See ya, everybody.